Hey, Brian. Almost.
Make sure you can hear me.
I can. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is George Alderete with Q and Hair Cosmetics. I'm just prepping and getting ready for my first demo, and today it's going to be all about texture. So we know that sometimes we tend to do the same thing, very traditional on every single person, and I think that sometimes getting a melt or even a blend on curly hair can tend to be a challenge. So what I want to share with you are some of those things that happen. So here's a question that I want to pose to everybody. Have you ever been in a situation where you do beautiful color application and placement, and then when you go to finish it, you wonder where the color went? That's happened to me. So what I want to share with you is how to effectively take different types of partings, following the type of texture you're working on, and what type of style does she want to wear? Does she want to wear it really coiled or really curly? Or does she have a tight curl? So we have a really tight curl over here. We have a medium, and then we have another medium with a little bit of a wave in there, crinkle wave, and then some fun colors. So I'm going to show you different diverse ways that you can apply on colored textured hair. Now, this was all unnatural hair, level 2. So you can see that our lightning process was very fierce and very, very, very cool in what I use. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Freedom Blonde over here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ultimate Blonde here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Ultimate Blonde over here. So what I want to share with you is just how would we do that and how would we apply it. So let's just say that a client comes in with textured hair, and I am open to any questions that any of you have, so please feel free to chime in. Jessica is going to be with me, and I know that some of you may have seen my friend James Helton on Monday, and he did textured haircut. Lots of great information that he shared, and a lot of good stuff for all of you to follow up with. So I want to talk a little bit about, and I'm just mixing colors, so excuse me, how you would go about doing a really versatile clientele. So a client that comes in with curly hair, and all of a sudden she says to you, you know what, but I wear it straight sometimes. So we know that the same thing with textured hair is that we always tend to pull it smooth or straight. And then what happens is when we blow dry it or diffuse it or leave it in its natural state, what happens is that it disappears, or it may look not as well blended as you want, or a little bit more wormy looking, or strings of spaghetti coming throughout the hair. So what I want to share with you is a way that you can eliminate that, get a beautiful blend, offer her the service to go ahead, work with it naturally, and work with it in a finish or a blowout. So let me get started on that right now. And again, if you have any questions, I'm going to just move her a little bit out of the way there. I'm going to bring in my other model, Emma. She is, and what I did was I wanted it pre-done so that you can have a really good visual as we're moving along within the next hour, so that you could really see the end results. And then we're going to show you the application as well here, and then show you another application over here so that you can see both of them. One is definitely more isolation and definitely more controlled, where the other one is going to give you a little bit more creative freedom and really working with the head shape. So let's talk about head shape and partings. For those of you that have met me before or have been in any of my courses at the Academy in Buckhead here in Atlanta, all of you know that my philosophy is really, really simple. I'm always working with the haircut, the natural form of the head shape, and the natural fall of the haircut. So in that, those are my philosophies of how I really like to approach color. So for me, there are a lot of geometric shapes that work on textured hair. This one in particular works really well because I get to work in the round. And that's something else that I always say. Working in the round means two things. You're working with the form of the head shape and the natural fall of the texture of the hair in this particular instance. So what we've done is I'm going to just take this section and clean it up a little bit so you can have a very good visual. I also, if you see behind me, I have some head sheets, and I'll share exactly those visuals a little bit later and with the formulas. So on this particular one, I'm going to take a diamond section on the very top. But what's really important about this sectioning is that you follow the shape of the head. So what do I mean by that? There are times when we are highlighting, and what we do is we tend to work really straight on the head shape. And when we do that, what happens is you can get a small lift or line of demarcation because there's no forgiveness in the sectioning that you're taking. So what I'd like you to do, if you're out there and you're following along, I want you to take your finger and I want you to just follow the curvature of your fist. So make a fist, take your finger, and then just follow that. What's going to happen when you do that is you're going to start learning how to follow the shape of the head. So in this diamond, it's a very soft, round diamond. There's the front, over to the sides, right to the parietal, right? And then into the back, so it goes back up. So what do I mean by following the shape of the head? Let me just demonstrate that for you really quick. And I'm going to show you in the very front. So if you're taking your sectioning, and here's another guideline that I like to use. I like to use the high brow bone right here, and I work up. Then when I work up, I'm going to follow, and if you can see that, I'm going to bring that to you. Can you see that really well? Jess, how are we doing?
We're doing great.
There's the shape. So you can see it's more of a rounded shape. So I'm going to take this shape, turn my comb, and then go back up to the high point. What I'll do is I'll have my finger on the other end. So that's going to give me a visual guide to go in and connect the dots, if you will. So what's going to happen here? We're going to follow the shape of the head, turn, and go up. And you're always following the curvature of the head shape. This is going to give you a really soft sectioning and parting. You don't want a really straight line. If you do a straight line, what's going to happen is you're going to get lift in these corners. And I bet this has happened to you. As a client ever said, could you get it any closer? And you're like, I'm going to get it really close. And you go in and then you put a really strong line and you have a hard line of demarcation. What this is going to do is going to soften that line, give you more forgiveness in your application, and give you a very beautiful, moving, soft result. And that's important. That's key with color right now. Everything's either blended, the contrasts are melted into one another. So that's really key. How we're going to blend this application is in the way we apply the color. So here we go. The first sectioning that we're going to take, and let's just say that on this mannequin, because this is the benchmark that I worked on right here. So I'm going to bring her up so you can see it. And I decided to do a little play on the poster and the banner that we had with our color chameleon, which is a fun color to use. So everything was pre-lightened. Even though the sections are alternated, this is also a great technique to use for blending, say on short hair, on bobs, on a solid shape. So this has a lot of different variations that you can use it on many, many people. So let me just show you what I mean by the sectioning and how we're going to apply it. So if you look back here, what I decided to do, if you look up at the sectioning, it's going to be 4 sections. And in those 4 sections, I'm going to use open-faced foil. Okay, so when you're using your open-faced foil, I'm going to demo that in a minute. You're then going to cover that up and move on. And you're going to do 3 back-to-back color sections in a row, and then you're going to do and repeat the same section. There's no free hair in this sectioning at all, so that eliminates a lot more time and gives you a lot more impact of color. That's really important. So the sides in all 4 sections that you can see on the very top and in the back are all open face. And then on the very top, which is what I'm going to demonstrate, you can see is in that diamond. And we're going to work on the very first tip of the diamond on the back high point of the head. And then we're going to rotate. But here is the fun part about it. If you were using variations of colors, what you can do is you can alternate those colors. So alternating those colors mean The very first alternation of color that you're going to go all the way around first is going to be one color. Then the second one in between is going to be the second color. And then you're going to just repeat that pattern all the way through. So let's begin so you can see. Let's say, so I'm going to use and pretend that this is already pre-lightened like I did on her. So what we did after we pre-lined it all with Ultimate is we took our first section, and the very first section has to be deep. What do I mean by that? You want to take a very deep stitch of the hair. Can you see that? See how deep that stitch is? Look at the coil of the hair. So I'm actually dictating the way the hair lives if it were curled. So there's the curl there. I'm going to actually follow that divot by going in, taking a deep sectioning, and creating a beautiful pattern for hair color that is on curly hair. So this is going to be my first section. I'm going to go deep, and I'm going to work off that head shape. There it is. This is going to be my first color application. It's going to be open face foils. Shout out to Framart. Thank you, Giovanni, for the wonderful supplies. And then my first color of application, because I just want to create a lot of fun and impact in the color with Color Chameleon, is going to be, remember, there's 9 shades. So we have orange, maroon, magenta, green, blue, violet, rose, and did I get them all? Oh, 2 color shifters, and that's going to be a clear and a dark. And you're going to love either one of those because they work beautifully in order to soften those colors out in pastels. And if you get one of the books with all the grids in it, you're going to see different ways you can formulate on the Color Chameleon to create beautiful pastels or even vibrance. I even created a neon by accident the other day by using some magenta and clear with a little bit of yellow, and it was really intense. Okay, so here's our first application. We're going to go all the way through to the ends. You really want to get good saturation. I'm going to crisscross all the way through the section, even though I've already applied it once. Now I'm going to take that color and I'm going to cross through it. What does that do? If I take my color and do this and keep doing those brush strokes, I keep moving the color off. If I wanted to do a blend and use 2, I'll show you in the next section how you can do that by taking a C section with that color. So by crisscrossing it, I'm already using the color that's already on that application to get better saturation as I'm moving. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a non-cling wrap, and I'm going to save that and put it right on there so now I can see exactly what color that I used. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn her, and the back of this, you can see, I'm going to take another section, drop that section out. So I'm actually working in the circumference of the diamond shape first. So here it is here. Here's another thing I want you to remember, and a lot of you may not think about it, but think about it and consider this. This is just a little food for thought. So what happens when I work on the exterior of my section? Let me show you. My section of color is dictating the subparting that I've taken out because I've worked on the outside of that section. Now, let's just say I work on the inside. I go over the end, work in towards the center, and now I have an interior color within that subsection that I've created. So that is really important on the visual effect of color that you'd like. So in low lighting, this works really well because if I do the interior, what's going to happen is the exterior, which is the lighter color, is going to blend into the low light, and now you're going to have a softer blend of color. Why does that work so well? I'll tell you why. I bet you 9 times out of 10 that a client will tell you that it's too dark once you've low lighted it for fall. Have you ever had that happen? I have. So if that happens to you, just remember, hey, if I work on the outside, I'm going to have more of a low light. But if I work on the interior of my subsection, I'm going to have a softer low light, and it's going to be more blended like I had colored it the very first time.
George, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are the lengths of your foils? Did you tear those off yourself, or were they pre-cut?
The roll. So
you use a roll?
Yes, I use a roll, and I have been switching to rolls instead of the pop-ups because what happens is I can take it and I can cut it a short length, or I can take it and I can cut it a long length. So now I can have any length that I want, standard or creative. So that's really important. So that's why I've been using the rolls lately. This is by Famar. It's the embossed back in black, and it's a medium gauge. And I like that gauge because it's easy to work with, and it doesn't allow the weight to pull on my foils or my color. So that's really important as well. I hope that answered your question, and that was great. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. And another question, based on your stitch, would that change based on how dense your client could be and the texture?
Ding, 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 ding. You hit it. Okay, perfect. So this is what's happening. Remember, look at the density of all this hair. It's huge. It's big. It's thick. It's dense. So what happens is if I do an application that is a traditional blonde application, blonding service, then what happens is if I'm just taking fine sections, I could foil this head forever. So what you remember is when it constricts, the color hides. It's like a peekaboo. Where is it? But when you go in deep and take larger sections, the stitch is even more predominant, and that's going to show you a lot more emphasis on the color. And that's what we did. On this coiling technique, same thing. You may look at it. So here's what I'm going to refer to. I just did some wigs for a friend, Sunny Anderson. And if you haven't followed her on Instagram, she does some of the best stories, and she does some great recipes and good cooking. But she sent me about 10 wigs, and they were all about a level 2. And some of them had this texture, some of them had a smoother texture. And I had to really learn how to work with the texture in order to get the most impact and not have to redo them or freshen them up or tweak them this or that, save time. So what I really learned from it is the deeper sections, the more exposed the color is going to be. So did that help?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Okay. And if you check her out, you'll see that I did her hair color. So check her out. Sunny Anderson on Instagram. So here I'm going to work on the outside because remember, I want a lot of impact of my color chameleon. Now my next color next to that is still going to be orange because I'm just using the one color all the way around first. So let me give you a really good blonding formula just so that you have that in the back of your mind. Let's just say I was doing highlighting and I was using a high lift. Let's just say our 1500 series. One of my go-tos would be 1531, and let's say with 30 volume. And the ratio of make sure always with our high lifts is, not all of them, 1 to 2 with our 1500 series and equal parts with our 1000 series. So it was a 1 to 2 ratio. I would mix that in. I would do all my 1500 all the way around first. Okay. And then the next section that you would see me do would be my lightener. I would leave out a section, skip that out. Or if you wanted to do a low light, you can also do that. Or let's just change that scenario. Let's just say you had a shadow root and you wanted to pull that shadow through. You could also do that. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So there's the second section. So first corner, second corner in the back, third corner in the back. I'm just following the shape of the head. Yes. Yeah, I can turn her for you.
Yeah, and George, would your product selection change also based on that hair, that textured hair? Because we know how it can be really, really strong, or it can be a little fragile.
Well, let me tell you, if she has any type of relaxer, You definitely have to change the way you approach it. I would probably use 1000 with 10 volume, equal parts. Here's what and here's what I know to be true. If she has any type of a smoothing or chemical straightener or a relaxer, then what's going to happen is that color is going to lift immediately. It lifts quickly, and the integrity you have to be careful with. So what you might end up doing, and I have done this, is I work in those quadrants first. As soon as I get to the next section, I check the first section, and believe it or not, it's ready to take down. So I take that down, I put a little shampoo, rinse it out lightly, and then go on from there. But you're constantly checking it. So yes, it's important. If it's natural hair, level 2, you can see what our 1500s did, our 1517, our Freedom Blonde, Open Air, because it's all hand painted. And over here was the 1517 Open, and it was beautiful. So it didn't give me the intended lift I wanted from a 2, so I didn't get all those levels of lift. I just got maybe to about a 5. So that was perfect because that's the intermediate color working with the natural base color that's already pulled through as well. So now I have 3 different colors or tonal variations that are really important to get and create the direction or dimension, excuse me. Good one. All right, so now we're going to take our next color. And on this, I'm just using 3 color variations. Again, this is the orange, and I'm going to turn her so that you can see it right there. And I'm on the corner, so when you're looking at it behind me, I'm over here 1, 2, and then I'm over here on the other side. And then you just... This mannequin? The one I colored before? Okay. So this is the end result of the technique. So you can see how the color is predominantly working on the center top point of the head, right into the middle, and those partings, even though it's a diamond, so it's a geometric square shape on a round head. But remember, because you're doing diagonal, let me talk about that. This is important. So what's happening is the reason why I have so much movement and this cloudiness in the hair is because I'm working with diagonal sections. I'm working with the lines, the natural fundamentals of the form. So by working with this line, if I look at her and she's in the very front, right here, this is her face. Let's take that. So see her face right here. See the side foil? See her face? This is diagonal forward. This one up here in this corner is going to be diagonal back. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a beautiful, beautiful crisscross of colors working throughout that hair, and that's what's going to give you that beautiful color popping through. You like that? That's my little spirit fingers. You like that, Jess? I was in chamber singers. I was in chamber singers, so I have spirit fingers in high school.
You have magic fingers, George.
I have what kind of fingers? I beg your pardon.
You have magic fingers.
Oh, magic fingers. I thought you said daddy fingers. I was like, daddy fingers? What's that? Like, who's your daddy? Okay, so now this next section is right here, again with the orange. So now we've already finished that section. So that was the first section we finished. And you can really see where you're going and how you're working because of the foil application being open face. There it is. I'm going to just take this out of my way so you can visually see it again. And I'll show you where we're going to begin our next section. So, because I know I'm very visual, sometimes people are telling me something and I'm like, I just don't get it until I see it. So, here we go. See the diamond? The points in the center, and the side, and then the center back, into the side over the ear, and then again into the front. We've covered the square, or the largest point of the diamond, all the way around first. Now what I'm going to do, this is the fun part, is you're going to take the next section And you're going to apply your second color. So, in the very back, there's going to be a very small corner that you can see. And if you can, I'm going to bring it up to you. See this corner right here? That corner, we're going to take a really nice slice. Why a slice? Because it's the smallest and the most narrow section that we're working with until we start working towards the center. So that little tiny point is just going to be a really nice little ribbon of color. So this one's going to be my second color choice. It's going to be straight across. I hope you can see that. And I will tilt her down, drop that out, push that forward. Can you see that? Now this section is going to lay right in the middle of those two sections. And those two sections, because that's diagonal forward, this is horizontal, it's going to lay right in there, and you're going to get another pendulum of movement. I am going to do a solid shape. But if this were a blonde, this would be the perfect opportunity to take that another section of hair, drop it, leave it out, and that would be a blend of color within that blonding service. But since we're doing a creative color, I'm just going to do them back to back and alternate one and then the other and then the other. So now I'm going to work in our green. I did add some clear so it's a little bit softer. So that's what you're going to see in the mannequin that I've pre-done for you. Good saturation. What I love about Color Chameleon, it is about a 20-minute processing, but I love the fact that where you place it is where you're going to see it. It really hardly ever moves. So when you're rinsing it, you're not going to have any color running onto the next color. And I love the fragrance. It's a beautiful, like sandalwood. It just smells really good. So I love that about it, but you can see how vibrant it's going to be. Then we're going to move to the next corner, and we're just going to keep moving the client around. Now you're going to see on this section, it's a little bit lighter. There we go. How are we doing? Any questions out there at all? Anybody thinking about some stuff?
Not at this point. I think everyone is just really engaged.
Nice. I'm so glad that you're all here.
I love the information.
Good. I'm glad. Well, you know, I've been thinking about it, and I was in, and I'll tell you, and I'll share the toners that I use, the semi-glazes that I use, because I'm in love with some new stuff. But I had an opportunity to work with some colleagues at Baron Salon of London here in Buckhead the other day, just to visit and say hi. And we were talking about toning formulations in the back room, just talking, you know, just kind of, you know, what we do. And we were talking about 10-8-1. Yeah, 10-8-1 with a little bit of 9. I mix them up. Sometimes I say 1-8, sometimes, you know, it's my dyslexia. And then we were talking about it. So with that, I worked off of that idea, and I just want to shout out to Ryan, because Ryan's the one that gave me this really cool idea, and I added a little bit of 9 to it, and it's absolutely stunning. It's now going to be one of my new favorites for blending. So next time Caroline comes in, she's the blonde I posted the other day. Thank you guys for all the support, by the way, on Insta. It was really cool. So there's number 2. Now I'm just going to stand in the same place, move her around. And remember, you have chairs that move, so move them. I don't know why in the salon, we were talking about that too. Why is it in the salon that we feel like we have to stand around them or in front of them? They move. That chair swivels, so move it. Okay, there's this one. This one's the green. So you've done one group of orange in Color Chameleon, one group of the green with clear in the second section of Color Chameleon, and then the third one is going to be magenta. So here we go.
George, these are perfect fall colors.
You know what? They really look good, and I was doing the toning on what's her name? I can't remember her name. Oh, Curly Sue? Okay, cool. So I was talking to her last night as I was prepping around 11 or 12, and because it took me all day to do everything. And so I was talking about it, and I thought, let's just throw a little green in there so it would be pretty. And it was just really interesting with the fall colors. So that little bit of green, and believe this or not, I tried it with orange, and guess what happened? Color wheel. It browned out. So I made a beautiful brown. So then I thought, okay, that's not going to work. So then what I did was I took a little bit of the green, a pin drop of dark, and some about a gram of yellow. And what happened is you get this beautiful, deep, rich, let me push it back away, rich green that you can see, which almost looks kind of metallic against the yellow. So it really works well with all of the colors popping out in a spindle kind of a way just because of this application. So what happens is you're working with the natural curl, it's pushing itself out and working throughout the top. Now, in the bottom, everything was foiled open face in this quadrant, open face in this quadrant, open face in that quadrant. So you have 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that's going to do is that's going to give you beautiful, beautiful spindles of color in this curly hair. So you can actually just see the texture. It's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. Has a lot of movement and colors that you can see in there. And ta-da! So now that we've completed this, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the third color. And you're going to be parallel to the existing parting below. Let me repeat myself. You're going to be parallel to the parting below. What does that mean? If you're not sure where you should be, all you have to do is follow the direction of the existing foil underneath. So now what I'm doing is I'm working to another corner. So now here I go again. Here's another slice. Drop that out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the outside. And I'm working backwards. So what does that mean? My section of magenta is going to be smaller. So that's going to be my creative tool to work with, and just to create a softer visual of that color coming through. Now there is that. Here is my magenta. These are the Big Daddy brushes from Framar. I absolutely love them. That's what they're called. They call them Big Daddy.
George, is your weave the same density as the others, or is it smaller?
No, it is smaller, and the reason why it's smaller is as I move up to the high point, you get closer to one another, and if they're too broad of a section, what's going to happen is by the time I work up to it, it's going to be a huge explosion of color, where I want it just to really softly come popping out of the head shape and the curl. So that's what's going to happen there. If you look at this one and see how the color just kind of pushes away from the shadow. Mm-hmm. So this is all by hand, but still in those 4 quadrants. So you can see that.
Okay. So can I ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
What is your key form of inspiration when you're creating these beautiful shades?
For me, color. I really was thinking about that the other day. I see color everywhere, all the time, and how the combinations of color. So movies, art, nature, things that I see, and I wonder, why are those 2 things together? Like, for instance, when we were, where were we? We were somewhere in our trip in California, and I noticed that the foliage is a lot different, and that nature was just absolutely stunning, but it was like flowers that we don't have here. So that was really important. And that was a really good impression. Or like when I walk into Costco or one of those stores and I see, all the flower arrangements, I look at the combinations. Like I love right now, I got an arrangement with pink and yellow daisies in it and some little purple flowers. I just thought the combinations were great. But then there was this really obscure white in there. And I thought, why white? But white worked. So my inspiration comes from that, and I watch a lot of people artists and designers and architects, and I read all of their things and their philosophy behind their approach to design and shape. So that helps me a lot. I'm constantly looking for like keywords or shapes or something that'll work with the natural form of the head, because it has to be something that I know will work for us in the salon as well, not just something I'm just going to throw against the wall and hope it sticks. So I hope that helped. Did that answer that question a little bit?
That was my question to you.
Okay. Yeah. You know, it's really odd because something that I'm working on right now in my head, and I've started taking notes, and that's what I'll do. I'll build out my notes a little bit as I think of something, and then I'll look back at them and they'll remind me, and then I'll go into it. Just like combinations of color, and that really helps me. And I write it down and then I think about it. So I like to go to like get paint swatches and see why those color combinations are working, or the details. Like I could open up a magazine, it could be, you know, furniture, and I could see like, why is the hardware that color? Because that's what makes everything else look really good, are the handles. I don't know, silly, but that's just the way I think. All right, so now that we're done with that, you can see we're working those sections. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my next color application in a minute, but I'm going to do one more, and that's going to be the orange. So your top section is now enclosing on itself. So it's kind of like painting in on yourself. There that is. I'm going to take a little broader section here, and we're going to do the orange. Now the orange is going to be directly underneath, or the magenta is going to be right on top of the orange. So there you go. Now, what if I wanted to do a blend? I could take this, because I'm open face, I could take the orange with the magenta, work that magenta in, and now I can have more of a melt. So there's that section there. How are we doing on time, kids?
You have about 20 minutes.
Cool. So I'm just going to do one more section of the orange, and then I will move on to the next technique, because I really wanted to give you something that I know that could take you back to your salon to just think about, and maybe consider somebody. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I really want you to think of somebody that would be in this situation that has textured hair and that possibly wears it smooth and wears it natural, and who you would be able to use this on. Now,
George, what is your formula for the orange?
The orange is just orange. On this particular orange, I mixed orange with the rose so that I could get a softer looking burnt orange. I know it's odd that the orange, you think you'd get coral, but I mixed it till I got it to the right tone that I wanted, and that's what I love about Color Chameleon, is that you can use your eye to see what's in that bowl, and that helps you measure instead of measuring out. I've done both. When I want something really specific that I know I'm going to share and I need a formula, I do that. When I'm having fun and I want to be creative, I want to see what I'm going to create with the different tones matching each other. So this one was a combination of orange and rose together, and you can see, I'll show it to you, it's so pretty. It's kind of like an antique orange pink. It's really, really pretty. I'm trying to get it into the light. There we go. Hang on.
So if you wanted it to be a little more burnt, you know what I mean? Like that burnt orange, would you use dark?
A little bit more dark. Here's what I'm going to suggest about dark. Dark will overtake your colors. Remember, the darker will always dominate in color. So when you see that happening, that can happen with dark. So don't overuse your dark. I would do this. Here's my suggestion to all of you, is take your primary color or tone that you want to use and then add a little bit of dark until you, and mix it, and then you'll see maybe take a white piece of paper and just paint it on there, like this one, and you just take your piece of paper and just paint it on there, and you'll be able to see the tones coming through. So look at what I'm starting to get if I do this. If I take magenta and I mix my orange over on top, see how it starts to change? Starts to softly diffuse it. So it really does make a difference, and visually that'll help you to have a better, clear understanding of what you're going to use. Cool?
That's great. I love that you put it on white paper.
Yeah, I was going to put it on flip chart, but there's no room in here. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm working in the back room. I'm like this, you know, but it's okay. It's all for you. Okay, so here's my last section. And as you're moving up, you're going to start to see that you're going to be using less foil. What does that mean? So that means that you're going to be using less sectioning because you're narrowing out your section. Okay, so now that that's complete, there it is. This is the last section on the top. What's going to happen is I'm going to take these four corners out so you can visually see it. This is what you're going to be left with on the very top, so you can see those sections. So that would be another color. This section right here, you can hand paint. It's one of the most difficult sections, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes what's going to happen is this is going to lay on top of it. So what I'll do is I'll take this section, I'll break it up, the entire section. I'll break it up really deep, take that out, drop that out, and leave this natural. So now I have a broken section, and now the natural will go and lay in between the two that you've already colored on top. So now you don't have a really hard color on the very high point of the head. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to move her over, and you take that from me, and then I'll put it on the mannequin stand so you can see while we're working. Now, this is something that I, have many years ago, we had to come up with something, some techniques. And those techniques were called twisted toners. So you took your blonde hair and you took toners, and I twisted them. And a friend of mine was working with me, and what we were doing is we created these twisted toners of color. And that was the impression that I had in the back of my head to actually do this application for you. So this one is too short. So let me get the other one. It's a little higher. Okay. Put her over here. I know we're coming close to the finish. There we go. There we go. See her? Oops, she's falling out of frame there. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now what I can do is I'm going to take four sections, four quadrants. Okay? So when you're looking at the head shape, this is going to be the back of the head. So we're going to split it into two. And what you're going to do is you're just going to rotate your three twisted toners. So you're going to have your first one that's going to be my ultimate. This was Freedom Blonde. Now, prior to everything that I did on this particular technique, I did the base first with clear. Now, that's really important, and you're going to think, why would you touch somebody up with clear? Because you need a product to blend, and I'm going to be pulling through her natural color. She doesn't want to work with the base color. So I will show you that in a minute. So that's going to be your first one. Your second one is going to be your natural hair, so that's going to be semi-clear. And then your third one is going to be your 1531, and that's going to be the third one. So we're just going to alternate them back and forth, back and forth. It's really fun. It's really simple. And that's the end result you're going to get. So let me just show you what we're doing. And I need some gloves. This one you need gloves for, kids. So don't forget. Well, you know, there's times when I walk into a grocery store and somebody is like, "Oh, what do you do for a living? What's wrong? Are you a mechanic?" No. Far from it. All right, so we're going to switch out our other colors, and if you could please take those from me. I appreciate it. Thank you. And these two colors that we're going to be mixing are going to be a high lift 1531 with 30 volume, one part of 1531 with 2 parts, and that is a golden ash. It's a beautiful high lift to use. If you want to create a beautiful caramel on a darker level, this would be my suggestion. That's my go-to. And then what I'm going to use is Freedom Blonde, again with 30 volume. Its own dedicated developer in that particular brand. It's a beautiful clay-like consistency. And the other thing that I love about it is that it encapsulates the hair. So if you're doing open face and open air application, this is perfect to use. It actually lifts beautifully. And that's going to be the other one. And then the third choice is just going to be clear. So let's get started. So what's going to happen is I'm going to part this off down the middle. I hate to ruin it because it looks so cute. But she's a great demo model. And you know, this kind of texture scared me sometimes when I was coloring it, but it's the easiest color texture. It's the easiest texture to color. So we're going to start on the bottom. I'm going to move up a little bit so you can really start to see it underneath. Okay. And you want to follow the coils. So here's my section. Okay. Can you see that, everybody? Now the first section I'm going to take is going to be the clear. I'm going to work that in at the base. I'm going to take my 1531 and I'm going to smudge that in and I'm going to work this through. Now what you want to be careful with is that curl, that wind of curl will twist on itself. So you really want to make sure that you really get good saturation. So here's what the clear is going to do. The clear is actually going to give you a blend with your 1500 and not changing that tone. So it's going to give you a slight gradient of lift and color as you're moving to the ends, which are lighter. So clear is great to work with all the time. And if I can get a towel, there we go. Now I'm just going to turn her here. I'm going to take my second coil next to that. That's going to be the clear. Worked at the base. Now, the base was already done. That was the first section that I took, and that was already complete. Now, this is going to be my Freedom Blonde. Oh, clear first. And depending on how far you want it, I work further away from the scalp with my highlight because when it climbs back in on itself, it's going to disappear. So you want to be a little further out. So don't be scared of taking your dark and pulling it through just a little bit more. And there it is there. Now, I'm going to tell you, I didn't have any bleeding on any of the hair, and I would say and contribute that to the clear. The clear actually acts like a little bit of a barrier in between your sectioning, so it sits over on itself. So I don't have to take that third step and use a cotton. So I'm just going to alternate all those sections all the way through to the top. And then in the front, what I did was we used a little bit of here, 1500, a little bit more of the lightener, and I didn't leave out. So why am I pulling clear through on the natural hair? The reason why is because I want that dimension to be in there, and that's that third category of color that I'm initiating into my process in order to give you a beautiful soft blend. So that's the coiling. I'm going to work all the way through. You're going to wait all the way up to the top of the head that you can see right here, and all those coils. You're going to alternate them 1, 2, and 3, and then as you're moving up, you just start alternating them where you feel them. I've done it 2 different ways. I've done it this way, it was all one color, and then all dark. I didn't get the definition that I wanted. It looked too hidden within itself. So, but when I started alternating them and taking bigger sections of the dark in between, it really gives you a beautiful contrast. So do you want me to just do a couple more sections?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this one's going to be, oops, I took off my glove. There. And then this one's going to be my clear again. Work that through.
Now, when you used clear, George, did you you mix it with activator, correct?
I did mix it with activator, yes. I did. And the ratio on that is going to be a 1-to-2 ratio. So as you see, as you're working up the head, let me just do this for you really quick because then you can see it even better. But if your clear is sitting at your base already, because I always pre-do that first, that's going to be, see how it sits up off the head? If you turn it to the side, it sits a little bit further up and off and over. So what that's going to do is it creates a little bit of a barrier for me. Now the best thing about it, what it creates for me in movement, is now that clear that's right here is going to be able to help me and allow me to blend my high lift by working that through. So I'm working it through and then little tension as possible, and then I'm just going to work that color in all the way to the bottom and drop that out. The next piece, I need a little bit of dark, so now I'm going to pull my clear all the way through. There it is there. And once you start getting a hold of it and you start doing it, you're going to see like it's so much fun and it's so beautiful. And especially if she's curly headed, this is going to be a great way to do her color. Now it will take a little longer, but it's just taking as long as say a full balayage. So once I'm complete, I do have pictures and I'm going to post them on my Instagram on all the highlights, but that's going to work. We're going to work it into that pie shaping panel that's right here, and then we're going to work around the front. Now there are times when they really want it light. I will work around the front first. Now here's the glaze. The glaze formula for this was 20 grams of 1081 with 10 grams of clear. Her undertone, let's see if I left it here. Oh, here it is. Try to pin it away. Her undertone, you see this lightest piece? See all the warmth that's in there? I just wanted to bring that down a little bit. It was a little bit raw looking. Here's another one. There it is. My glaze was Semicolor 10.81. It's our new limited edition. So it's in a pink box. And then I had 20 grams and then 10 grams of clear in semi. So that gave me 30 grams total. And now I need 60 grams of activator to mix it and then apply it. So that's what I used. What do you guys think? Stuff you can use? Stuff you can take home?
So George, as we're wrapping up, what are some...
Already?
Well, we're getting there. It's we got about 6 minutes, but I would love for you to talk a little bit. Your finishing on these are gorgeous. What are like your to-go-to products for textured hair?
So everything was done with curl cream first. Put on the hair individual sections, section by section. It's time consuming, but it was worth it. I let them air dry. Once I air dried, if you could get me the iron, it's the very smallest one. It's in the bottom drawer in the bathroom. What I did was I then had that as my color, my base, my product, my base product. On this one, we used curl cream, right? Because she's got a thicker, denser curl. Hers is more like a perm, like a wave. So what I did was I wanted to get more lift off of it, so I used Absolute Mousse. And that was just the base. That's all I use with curly hair. It's easier for me to use less. There's been times when I spray it and then set it. And you know what? It's so sticky and it combines the hair together that as I'm pulling on it, it starts to frizz. So this gives me a little bit more forgiveness to pull it through. So that I can take it with my fingers and then just break it up without ruining or getting that frizz in there. Now, prior to that, before I set it, here's what I did. I took that section, I backcombed it, okay? If you want volume, that's the way to do it. Then I took my iron, and then I just took that and I wrapped it and turned it once on itself, turn it into the sectioning of the curl. I know I'm in your way. Pull it out and it'll stand up on itself. So that's the same technique that I used over here, but what I did was a little bit more directional. So this one was just kind of in a circle, right? This one was more directional towards this side because I wanted to get a little bit more lift into the front. So when you push it in place, you have a little bit more lift like that. And then you can see the colors from underneath kind of ribbon through the frame of the color. So that's how I set him. So one was with curl cream, let air dry, a little back combing to cushion it, so that you have this result over here, and then air dry naturally. And then all I did was just really softly turn it over, pick it out at the base only. I didn't run my fingers all the way through it because I want those spindles of colors to really show like that, because I think that's really cool. And then this is the end result. So I hope that helped. And then if you want some added shine, definitely use some Brilliant gloss spray. And that'll definitely put the icing on the cake for all of you.
Beautiful.
So try this. I hope you enjoyed it today. I had a great time getting ready and sharing. Just be well and be safe out there. I hope to talk to you soon. And just thank you for listening and thank you for checking in. And if you're going to go to my Instagram, go to George Colorboy Geo. You're going to see in the highlights, we're going to have the head sheets up, the formulations, and the glazing toners. Oh, one more glaze before I go. So she was very light, right? So I had 718, semi-color, 718, one of my favorites as well. And then I added clear to it just to soften it up a little bit. So it was 20 grams of 718 and 20 grams of clear. And then what I did was just left that on for 20 minutes because I didn't want to take it away, and it just softened that raw blonde that we had in there. And that's really key. And you know what? I'm just going to say this. If you don't leave it on for 20 minutes, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that's the only way any demi-permanent will work that you're doing in the bowl. So please don't be afraid of the oxidation. Don't be afraid of it turning or going too dark. And if you feel like it's going to go too dark, then implement a little bit of clear into it, okay? So that's just my little pet peeve for the day. But anyway, I had a great time. Thank you, Jessica, for everything.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can DM me anytime, George Colorboy Geo. There it is, on Instagram. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Talk to you soon. Oh, she's looking at me, Huh? You there, Jess?